Pregnancy Crisis Center was birthed as a dream in 1984. 6 folks came together and they prayed. They wanted to help men and women in unplanned pregnancy in practical ways. These folks had prayed that in the first year they might be able to help 10 young women, and at the end of that year they had assisted 38 girls. Since 1985, Pregnancy Crisis Center has touched the lives of more than 50,000 individuals. Where we are today at the PCC is a place far beyond what we could have asked or hoped or thought or imagined in 1984. And for our clients, we want them to have the hope that their lives can be filled more than they could ever imagine, because there are places here at the PCC where hope and help and healing are offered day after day. Over the next few minutes, we'd like you to listen to the stories of 2 women we've been privileged to serve at the Pregnancy Crisis Center.
I was born in Fargo, North Dakota, and raised in Minnesota with my parents, Tim and Mary Jean, and grew up with an older brother, an older sister, and a younger brother. So I was the 3rd child, and we lived on a farm. And we moved to Kansas when I was 6.
I grew up in Wellington, Kansas, and lived there my whole life until I was 25. My family life was pretty chaotic. Both of my parents had a drug problem when I was growing up, and I dropped out of school when I was 15. Started drinking when I was 15, and my parents introduced me to marijuana, and started doing drugs when I was 15.
My junior high and high school years were kind of some rough areas, rough times. I began an eating disorder around 7th, 8th grade, and that kind of lingered through high school and into even college.
We had parties every night of the weekend, it didn't matter. We had parties. By the time I was 16, I'd had 2 different guys living with me at my parents' house, and I got pregnant when I was 16, and I had an abortion, and then got pregnant 3 months later with my daughter now.
After high school, I went to college, Heston College, in the nursing program. My freshman year, the spring of my freshman year, I got pregnant, and needless to say, it was very hard to tell my parents because of our strong Christian beliefs. That was, I guess, not looked down upon, but definitely wasn't encouraged happening. And so a lot of shame, guilt, all of that. And then 2 weeks after I told them, I miscarried. All of that kind of just added up to be, I don't know, a really big, I guess, freshman year of college, kind of, because that all happened then, and it was a lot to take in. But I went back for my 2nd year and finished college. It was a good time. I can't say it was a bad experience all around. So in 2006, the start of 2006, I left and went to be a traveling nurse, contract positions, and I first started in the Virgin Islands. A lot of what went on down there was drinking and a lot of good times, I guess, but it really wasn't me, and I found that out 6 weeks into the 12-week contract, and so I left and came back home. And then I went to Bartlesville, Oklahoma to do another contract position for 13 weeks, and that was an awesome assignment, so I thought I'd keep going with it because it was fun to meet people, fun to work. And so I went to California, the next one, and yeah, that one wasn't so fun. And 3 weeks from the end of the assignment, a nurse at the work had kept asking me to come out with her and her friends, and I was like, okay, fine, whatever. One time isn't gonna hurt anything. And so we went out, and I was drugged and raped that night. And I don't know by who, but, and I left the assignment I didn't go back to work after that. So I came back home and didn't really know what to do.
I was scared, to be a mother, to be pregnant that young. When my parents found out, they really forced the abortion, and my mom, talked me into going ahead and going through with it. A nurse took me back and kind of counseled me. She did a sonogram and advised me not to look at the sonogram screen. Of course, I did anyways, and that's when, the reality of this is a life. I could see the heart beating. I remember going into the room where the procedure was done, and I remember the recovery room. And just after leaving there, just feeling like something had been taken from me, just knowing that my life had changed, and I felt empty and depressed, and a part of me was just ripped away.
I came back from California, and they had told me when I had gone to the rape clinic, when I'd called the police out there, that I needed to follow up if I wasn't going to stay in the area. And so I came back, and I think it was in that first week that I called the Pregnancy Crisis Center, and I had just looked in the phone book for somebody that would do free pregnancy testing. And so I called, and then I went and found the Pregnancy Crisis Center. So
my sister and I were very close, and we weren't so much before our teenage years, but in our teenage years we were very close. And she got pregnant when she was 13, and my parents really forced her even more so than they did me to get an abortion. And so I knew that she understood what I was going through, but we didn't talk about it. My counselor, I'd been seeing a counselor for about a year, and we had started working through some post-traumatic stress disorder issues, and it led back to the abortion, and we started working through some of those issues, and she found out about the Hope Renewed conference. The Hope Renewed weekend is a weekend for post-abortive women to work through their abortion issues. I was very skeptical. I felt like it might help a little bit, but I didn't feel like it would be as complete as the experience was.
when they told me about the counseling services, I immediately red flag, like, no way, not gonna do this. I've been down the counseling part, you know, during high school and all that. Never really liked it, didn't like it when people suggested it to me. I wasn't gonna have another person try and figure out, you know, what went wrong and what I should do about it. And, you know, I don't know, I guess it's a God thing, because I called and said I'd like to try it and meet with Nancy. Each week it was just, I don't know, you could just feel like I wanted to go back, and it was a sense, I guess, more of peace about facing the truth from the past. I went back and I went back and back for a year. So obviously it worked out well as far as the communication between Nancy and I. It just felt right. It felt natural and comfortable that I could share pieces, and not even just about the experience in California, but like the whole point of leading up to that and everything that kind of piled into one that I never really did deal with like before, and I didn't want to, because truth is kind of a scary thing, and it's no fun to face, especially by yourself.
There was a lot of guidance in the weekend as far as getting to the bottom of, you know, the feelings and the shame, the guilt, the emotion of the abortion, and and giving me tools to know how to deal with the thoughts, the triggers, that come back from the abortion. Forgiving myself, that was a huge thing that I took away from the weekend, is learning how to forgive myself and who I am in Christ.
Nancy was not charging me a thing to see her, so I definitely feel I owe her all that I have. But it was, it's an amazing thing that it's free.
It's like a safe haven. You don't want to go back to reality. And on the way home, I was just real emotional, and I went to my sister's house because that's where my daughter was, and I just walked in and grabbed her and hugged her and just started crying, and she started crying and just kind of stood there for a little while, and she's seen, the change, and just being able to share with her, and it's really set her to thinking, as well. I mean, she wants that same kind of hope and forgiveness, and in God's timing, I believe she'll have it as well.
If I had never found the Pregnancy Crisis Center, I don't want to think about where I'd be. That's not a very fun thought, because I'd probably be stuck in the same rut. I could never imagine being here now. I could not ever have dreamt how far it took me. The biggest benefit of becoming a healthier person, getting new relationships and all that, was in the process of it all, I met my husband now, Ben. And now I have a son, Christian, and that is beyond belief, because he's the biggest blessing that I could have ever imagined. It's just an incredible feeling being in this spot and coming down the journey, even though it was obviously very rocky, but it's led me here, so I can't complain about that.
I think that before the weekend, I thought that it was possible that I would find healing and that my life would be changed, but I didn't believe it. And once I got through the weekend, it was more than I ever thought it would have been. And going through the 6-week Bible study, even following that, I needed that. I needed to reiterate what we'd gone through, and 3 short days, and just needed to continue down that path. And I feel like God's just brought me through so many things through the weekend and through the study. But one of the biggest things is feeling accepted and loved and forgiven and free.
I hear all too often folks who come through our facility and leave saying, "This is the best kept secret in town." Thank goodness we're not a well-kept secret to our clients. For them, they come for pregnancy test, ultrasound, STD testing, marriage and family counseling, parenting programs, childbirth education, budgeting classes. And now men come to engage in a brand new fatherhood initiative, helping dads to understand it's important for them to be committed, responsible parents in the home. God is working at the Pregnancy Crisis Center, using ordinary people like you and like me to share the grace and the love of God with people who have stories that need to be heard, who have lives that need to be helped. We're excited to be changing services to meet the changing needs of clients year after year as God gives us the privilege of serving. Thanks to you and your gifts to the Pregnancy Crisis Center, you allow us to be present to serve them.